99% of agency owners never reach that 7-figure mark, and 98% don't even reach 6. So this is my exact breakdown on how I hit 100K a month with my agency. Now, number one, my offer. All right, so essentially the normal agency offer looks like this, right? It's around 1.5 to 2K. So it's around $1,000 to $2,000 a month. Another thing about a normal agency offer is the high supply and low demand. So what that means, there's so many agencies out there offering the same exact thing. They're just doing Facebook ads or editing content or sending emails, right? So there's so many people offering those things, but the demand for those things is so low, meaning the market doesn't want it that bad. So since there's an excess of supply, so too many people doing it, and a decrease in demand, not a lot of people want it, what that ends up doing is the customer ends up choosing the price. The reason for that is because anyone can go find another agency doing the exact same thing for a cheaper price. And at that point, it's a race to the bottom. So it's who can charge the least, right? Who can turn the most clients? And that's the game you're stuck in with the normal agency, right? The price keeps being driven down to the point where you can't even fulfill. You have to hire a VA to do the work. The margins are around 20 to 30%. And you're stuck in this rat race of in a cycle, right? In a cycle. So you're in a 3-pillar cycle essentially where you can't charge a lot of money because these people don't see a lot of value in your services. Because you can't charge a lot of money, you don't have a lot of money to fulfill for your clients. So you can't hire premium talent. You have to hire VAs, you have to do the work yourself. You can't take care of your clients that well. And because you can't take care of your clients that well, it leads to a poor product, right? So the service is not too good. When the service isn't too good, then it leads to a low price. And that's the rat race you really don't want to be stuck in as a service provider. When you are stuck in that rat race, it essentially leads to you being a glorified employee and basically a contractor. So with this model, right, I scaled my agency to 10K a month. 10K a month isn't as sexy as you think it is, right? When your agency is at 10K a month with this model, you're making around 3K in profit. So 3K in profit for an online business it's okay, but like I said, I was at 10K a month making around 3K. And the problem with that was I was working 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. I was a slave to my clients. I was a glorified employee like we were just talking about. So essentially the way this had me feeling was angry Cole. Angry me, right? Only making 3K a month. I was living, I couldn't reinvest much money back in the business because I had no margin. So what did I do? Normal Cole's, right? So the first thing I did is let me give you some backstory on this. The normal service provider, the normal agency, the normal short form content, sales agency, marketing agency, whatever it is doing this, right? So this is where they're at right now, right? That's where your client is right now. Maybe they're making 5K a month. They're closing a few deals a month, right? And this over here is where they want to be, over here, okay? And so this is the gap, where they are right now, like I said, and where they want to be. What you guys are doing are offering a partial solution to the gap. So this part of the gap is what you're solving for, around 10%. So you're solving for around 10% of the gap. And since you are solving for around 10% of the gap, you're not getting them from where they are to where they want to be fully. You're only partially getting them there. And because you're not providing that much value to them, getting them from A to Z, you're only allowed to charge 1.5K, which at service level seems like a decent amount of money, right? But when you think about it, it's not. So you may ask, Cole, what did you and the team do to combat this? Instead of just providing a 10% solution and just doing like Facebook ads, right? Let's just say that's Facebook ads. Instead, we gave 20%, 30%, and then 100%. Let's say we run their Facebook ads and they get a bunch of leads, but then what? They don't set them into appointments, so then what? We help them with appointment setting, right? We help them set appointments. So how can we do that? We either have our own in-house team call them, right? Or we hire somebody to call them, or we help them hire someone to call them. It's simple, right? So we're solving 20%. Okay, so let's say we get them leads, and then after we get them appointments, but now they can't close them. So what do? We solve another 30%, right? So maybe we hire them a closer, or maybe we do sales training, or maybe we provide a course on how to sell, right? So now we provided 10% with the Facebook ads, 20% with the appointments, and 30% with the sales. Now we're at 50% of the gap. We're solving for half the gap instead of just 10% of it. Okay, so now what, right? They're getting leads, they're getting appointments, and they're closing. Okay, so now let's say they're in the position where they're making money, but they're working 12 hours a day. What can we do to help them solve the rest of the 50% of the gap? We either help them find a CEO, help them find closers, help them replace themselves. So, talent. Now, I'm not here saying this is the exact offer you should do, right? But what I am here saying is since we provided so much more value, we were allowed to charge 15K upfront rather than 1.5, right? So we were allowed to charge 15K for our services rather than 1,500 because we're providing so much more value. And because I was providing so much more value, right, it led to them trusting us. right? Because they knew that we knew what we were talking about. Another thing about this high price point, a lot of people think high price point, we're not going to be able to sell it. People think and have such higher of a perceived value of the service if it's expensive. For example, Lamborghini. You think those cars are the shit because they're expensive, right? Louis Vuitton. You think those wallets are amazing. Why? Because they're expensive, right? So I wasn't seen as any other normal marketing agency, normal service provider. I didn't even position myself as a marketing agency. We were more positioned as like a growth partner or somebody to help grow your business from A to Z. Now, if you're in the position where you haven't landed a single client or haven't even scaled past like 3 or 5K a month, then I wouldn't go selling that offer. It's because you don't know what your industry wants. So you can't go trying to bridge their whole gap because you don't know what they want. Now, if I were you and I was just starting out, I would sell a commission only thing where I sell like $2,000 setup and then it's like, you only pay me when you close. The reason why that is, it's gonna lower the barrier of entry for people to work with you and you're gonna be able to get experience while collecting a little bit of cash in the door. Once you collect that cash, then you can put yourself in the position where you're charging way more, providing more value, and know a little bit more about your target avatar and needs. So, number 2, setting appointments. In my opinion, there's 2 viable ways to go about setting appointments for your agency, and that's DMs, so Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn DMs, whatever, right? And the other is paid ads, right? So this is what we did, right? We did paid ads, and paid ads is essentially the quote unquote cheat code to scale your business. Now that's not to say you can't scale with DMs, but a bunch of people blew their business up with ads. Alex Hormozy, Cole Gordon, all of these people scaled really fast and built everything they have strictly off of paid ads. And now the reason that is because it's more leverage. I know I didn't spell leverage right guys? It's more leverage. So essentially what that means is you can just sit there, spend money on Facebook, spend money on Instagram, and you can have leads coming through the door. Now, I'm not here saying it's the easiest thing in the world. It's not, right? But if you're in the position where you can run paid ads, that's definitely what I would do. Now, the reason, you spend money, you sit back, and leads come in. Now, when you're sending DMs, it's all manual labor, right? You have to send the DMs yourself, you have to get the leads yourself. Now there's a few other reasons why I like paid ads more than DMs. The reason why that is because DMs have lower intent. So what lower intent means is these people aren't as interested in your service as they would be with paid ads. The reason for that is because they didn't click on what you were posting. You reached out to them. And now it just seems a little more quote unquote desperate. Like Google's not out there sending DMs, right? Amazon's not. The top agency owners in your niche aren't. Anyone over 10, 15, 20K a month, most likely are doing paid ads. Now, this is not, like I said, this is not to say that DMs can't scale aggressively and you can't scale fast. If you're willing to put in volume with DMs, you can scale, and you can scale massively and easily. But to get the point across, when you're sending DMs, the intent's gonna be lower because you are reaching out to them. Now with paid ads, guess what? Higher intent. And now the same reason goes, the reason the intent's higher is because they're reaching out to you. They're clicking on your shit. They're clicking on your stuff. Now, this is how I scaled to around 5K a month because I didn't have any money. So I just sent a bunch of DMs running my offer in their face. So I was like, hey, I saw you're in the solar niche as well. I was wondering if you're interested on taking on more deals on a commission basis. That's what I need you guys to realize. I was using an irresistible offer in my DMs. If you get a DM and they're just like, hey, can I help you out with your ads? You're not gonna reply to that. They probably get 50 million of those a day. But if you're like, you only pay when you close a deal, somebody's gonna respond to that and somebody's gonna be interested. That's what I was running with my paid ads to get to around 10K a month, but more like 5. Now I know a bunch of agency owners at this 10K a month mark that run DMs. So with paid ads, this is how I scaled to 100K a month. Now the reason that this is, the funnel that I was running, right, was a little bit different. Now I'm gonna get a little advanced with things depending where you're at with your agency, but the way I was running my paid ads was something called a lead bag, right? A lead, essentially what that means is I was giving something to them for free. So I was like, hey, I just launched a completely free training on how to set 500 appointments for your solar business, right? Click on the link below if you're interested. And now, so I was getting much cheaper leads with this. And the reason for that is because I was giving something out for completely free, right? Everybody's gonna click on that. But not everybody would set an appointment because not everybody wants to buy something. But I was getting leads for such a cheap price that it was okay, and enough people were responding that I was getting appointments for a cheap price as well. And when I did get these appointments, the trust was way higher in the sky, right? The trust was way higher because they already knew that I knew what I was talking about because they already got something from me for free. So they trusted me. They knew who I was. So some actual advice, it really just depends where you're at. Paid ads, it's gonna take around $1,000, $1,500 to start up with. If you don't have that, go about sending DMs. If you need some personalized help, DM me the word ads on Instagram, I'll help you out for free. So like I said, if you have 1,500 paid ads, if you don't, DMs. So, number 3, lead nurture. Now, if you don't know what lead nurture is essentially after somebody gets interested in your stuff or express interest in your stuff, how fast can we make them trust us, right? How can we warm them up? How can we make them get in a buying state and feel ready to buy from us before the call? What lead nurture is everything from when they become a lead, so when they say they're interested, to the appointment that we have. So sometimes it's 24 hours, sometimes it's a 6-hour process, sometimes it's 3 days, depending how far out they book. In my opinion, this is the biggest thing that's holding agency owners back, right? The first thing to get to 10K a month, all it is setting appointments. If you can set a fuck ton of appointments, you can scale. If you're at 10K a month and you're struggling to scale to 30, 40, 50K, it's most likely lead nurture. You're not nurturing your leads enough. So since I was charging 15K up front, I really need to dial this in, right? Or else they wouldn't trust us and they wouldn't feel ready to buy because it was a lot of money. So about lead nurture, the main thing that I like to keep in mind is something called the 7-hour rule. So it's something called the 7-hour rule, and this is by Dan Kennedy, one of the marketing goats, right? So essentially with the 7-hour rule of content from you, basically seeing your face in order to trust you enough to make a buying decision on their own without influence, right? And without influence basically means without closing them and selling them and persuading them on the sales call. So then after this, the goal becomes, how can we get them to consume 7 hours of content before the call? And now, oftentimes this isn't possible, especially if they don't know who you are before they became a lead. But if we can even get them to consume 1 hour, even 30 minutes, this will increase the close rate by at least 2-3x, right? And so if they trust us at least a little bit, that's gonna be really beneficial for your business. And so if you think about it, if you make one video that's 20 minutes long and make them watch it and make sure they watch it before the sales call, that'll double your close rate, even if your closing is the same ability, and that'll double your business just like that. So I guarantee right now, if you're under 10K a month, you're probably doing nothing. They don't know who you are, they haven't seen your face. You get on the sales call and you try and ask for $2,000, right? Think about it. If that was you, would you buy it? Probably not. So you gotta think about how can we make them trust us. Now I'm gonna walk you guys through how I handled lead nurture and how that process went exactly, essentially. So let's say this black box is a lead. So this is when they became a lead. Now, if you can, before this black box, this little dotted line, we want them to consume content before they even become a lead. Now, if you're under 10K, 30K, even 50K, don't even worry about this right now. It's gonna really optimize things, but it's something you don't need to worry on right now if you're not at 30K or 50K a month at the very least. So what we do need to focus on is this line right here, from when they become a lead to when they have their sales call. Like I said, right now, you guys are probably doing absolutely nothing to get them to trust you before the call. This is the exact process that I run, right? No gatekeeping at all. So let's say they become a lead right here. What we do right here is send them an email right when they book a call. So they book a call right here. They book, right? I'll write that. They book a call, and this is when the call shows up and when it's taken. We send an email. What's in the email, right? There's 3 main components. Value, so free value in the email, right? Videos with free value, testimonials, and then client interviews. See, these are the 3 things that we're implementing. If you're doing this, you should at least have around 3 client interviews, a bunch of testimonials on a landing page, and some free value in there. Now, some free value could be training videos, some sort of VSLs, something like that. Essentially giving them free value so they know that you know what you're talking about. Some other things that we'll implement in here, but these are the 3 main pillars, would be a backstory of the founder, or inside of the program. So what inside of the program is like an overview of what they get. So they're educated on what you do before they come in to the sales call. So this is one of the main components that really increases close rate. Now, if you were to just do this and you didn't have this implemented at all, and you really encourage them to look at all 3 of these things, then I guarantee, like I said, your close rate would double. Now, something else that we're doing is something called a confirmation call or triage, right? So something we put in here is, so what this is essentially it's our setter, our confirmer, anybody, even you, the closer, whatever, calling them before the appointment. It's not something scheduled, but just getting in touch with them and talking to them. So some things you can mention in this call is, did you watch the videos, right? Encourage them to go back to this email. Check out the socials, right? So check out my socials. If you have content on your socials, your YouTube, whatever you have, if you have any short form content, if you have lifestyle stuff on there, send them to your socials. It'll build some status in your niche and it'll trust you way more. Last thing, it's just confirm. So essentially what confirm does, obvious, confirm. Are you still good to go for our call? Just to let you know it's gonna be an hour. Like, do you have that hour completely blocked off? Do you have anything in that hour that might come up, right? Are there any partners that should be on that call as well? Just confirming and almost even qualifying them a little bit further. Now there's 2 things that does. 1, it reminds them to go back to the email and check it out even further. And 2, since our socials building more trust. If your social page is optimized. 3, confirming the call, right? Will you show up? In my experience, if you get someone to be like, yeah, I'll be there, then your show rate's gonna like double. Now, this is helping a lot with trust on the sales call, like I've been talking about, but something else that helps a bunch with is the show rate. Now, I'm saying all this to get the point across that like, if you're not at least 10K a month, then I wouldn't worry about a bunch of this stuff. The one thing that I do suggest you guys make is one 15-minute video. A 15-minute video with some testimonials in there, some client results, an overview of what you guys do. It's that simple. If you have that one video, it'll be good enough for you to scale to 10K a month, maybe even 20 or 30. If you're at 20, 30K a month, I would incorporate all these things. This is exactly how I scaled to 100K a month. And this is exactly what I'm gonna commend it to essentially. Like, this is why. This is one of the main reasons why we were able to scale so fast. Is because of the offer and the lead nurturing process. Now, the final thing I'm going to be going over today is sales. This is essentially the sales call. When he gets on the call, how are you going to sell him? So to me, there's 3 parts of the sales call, right? There's the discovery, there's the pitch, and there's the close, right? So it's broken down into 3 parts. So it's 3 parts that should take around an hour, and this is exactly the way that I structure. So discovery is essentially a series of questions that you're asking them in order to bridge a gap. And what bridge a gap means is make a gap from where they are to where they want to be. The purpose of the pitch is to bridge that gap in order to be like, hey, you have this big problem. Don't worry about it. I'm here for you, and I'm gonna help you out. The close, essentially saying the price, handling objections, and getting the cash. So discovery. This is how I like to break it down. The abbreviation is SPIN. Now, I didn't make this up, and I'm not gonna take credit for it. So, and honestly, I don't know who made this up. I think it's just something in sales that's been around for a long time. Now, SPIN, S stands for situation. Say it with me, guys. Situation, right? P stands for problem. I stands for implication. And N stands for need, pay, off. So essentially discovery is going to be brought into a bunch of questions. That's what sales is. It's asking good questions. Now it's asking these people a bunch of questions about where they are, where they want to go, and things like that, making that gap big. So situation, these are questions about where they're at currently, like what their situation is like. So how many deals are you closing a month? Where are you at right now? How many leads are you generating a month? How many appointments is that? What's your close rate? Things like that. So this is essentially where they're currently at. It's easy. This is where it gets a little bit harder during the problem. So this is essentially asking questions about why they're on the call, what their problem is. Because something I need you guys to understand, if they went far enough to book a call with you, then they clearly have an issue that they want you to solve. So essentially, like I said, this is you bringing up a problem. How many deals do you want to be closing? How many appointments do you want to be generating? If we were in a perfect world and everything was great and there were unicorns flying around, how much money would you want to be making? So essentially this is like, you're making 10K a month and you want to be making 100K a month. There's clearly a problem there. Now the next step is implication. So what that essentially means is what happens if nothing changes and your situation stays exactly the same and your problem stays the same. So some questions about this would be like, let's say they're at 3 leads a month and they want to get to 500 leads a month. Some extreme example, right? You're like, so what would happen if you stayed at 3 leads a month for the rest of your life and you never generated 500 leads in a month? How would that make you feel? What would that do for you, like personally? Now, these are questions that can get kind of hard to ask if you're new with sales, right? You don't want to dig too deep. You don't want to mess up the sale. And I understand I was the same exact way at the beginning. It's all about tonality. Let's say you phrase it like, what would happen if you were at 3 leads a month and you just never got to 500? Like, how would that make you feel? Obviously, they're going to be like, what the fuck is this guy asking me? Like, just curious, John, what would happen if you were at like 3 leads a month and you never even got to 500 leads a month? Like, what would happen then? And that's more of like a curious tone. Like, I'm just curious, bro. Like, I'm not trying to get too into your shit and things like that, right? So with implication, what I need you guys to realize, keep a curious tone, right? Like, just be curious, genuinely. And if you're genuinely curious, what would happen? Then the response will be good. Last thing is need payoff. So this is similar kind of to implication. So situation, where they're at, problem, what the problem is, implication, what happens if the problem doesn't get fixed, need payoff, what's the goal with the problem being fixed? So some things like that is like, let's say you got 500 leads a month, like how much money would you be making? Is that like your dream? Okay, like money aside, like why do you want to make that much? Like what would you do with that much money? Things like that, right? Now this is the same thing with implication, curious tone. So after the discovery, there's a small thing called transition. Now I'm not going to get into that too much, but it's essentially transition from the discovery to the pitch. This is like bridging in between the two. So essentially all this is, yeah, from what we talked about, seems like we can really help you out. And then you essentially go for the pitch. So some things I want you guys to keep in consideration for the pitch is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't go into the intricacies of what you guys do, the technology of Facebook ads and all that stuff. What I need you guys to realize is this. Why are you running an agency? Because you probably want to make money, you probably want to provide for somebody, you probably want nice things, right? But do you care that it's an agency? Or do you just want to make money? If you had drop shipping and you could be financially free with drop shipping and make a bunch of money, would you do it, right? Yes. You would. You don't have some crazy passion about a marketing agency. So you need to realize it doesn't matter from A to Z. Nobody gives a fuck about Facebook. Nobody gives a fuck about Amazon FBA, right? What people care about is making money. So they don't care about your Facebook ads or your cold email. They care that it's going to get them from where they are to where they want to be. They don't care about anything else, right? So keep it simple. Another thing about that is somebody that's confused never buys. If they're confused, right? Like, okay, let's say that's them. If they're confused, they're not gonna buy because they're like, what is this? They're confused about it. They don't know how it works. They don't know what's going on. So don't confuse them is essentially what I'm getting across. Don't go pitching all the features and this and this and this. Just tie back in to the discovery, right? So you know how you said that you wanted to generate 500 leads a month? We're gonna do that with Facebook ads. So essentially what that's gonna do is put you out to a bunch of people, and what that's gonna do for you is XYZ. So the framework that I would follow is, you know how you wanted this is what we're gonna do to solve that, and that's what this is gonna do for you, right? And so however many pillars of your program you have, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? I wouldn't keep it over 5, I'd probably just do 3 max, right? Tie it in. So whatever 3 pillars, do that same process 3 times. Now don't just spam words at them, let them talk, have a conversation. That's the biggest thing that I'm seeing with pitch that people are doing wrong. They're just spitting. Now for the close. The close is price, so saying the price, and then objections. So price, this is simple. I wouldn't get scared, not at all, don't overdo it. Literally say the price is XYZ for this amount of time. That's it. And now if anything comes and they're saying, I need to think about it, right? Or I need to talk to my wife, or it's too much money, right? This is how I would handle objections. So the framework that I follow is disarm, and then isolate. Essentially disarming them. So let's say they were like, yeah, I really like it, man. It's just too much money. Oh yeah, 100% get it, man. Like, it is a lot of money. It's a big decision for you and your business. Just curious though, so I can stay clear on my end. Like, price aside, is this something you 100% want to do? And the reason we asked this question, right? And just to break that down a little bit, disarm would be like, yeah, I agree. I understand where you're coming from. I would feel the same way, making them feel safe. And then isolate, right? Isolate is the biggest part. So it's like isolate, price aside. Is this something you really want to do? Now, the reason why you have to ask that, now, if you're not isolating the objection, you're not going to know what the real objection is. People are going to tell you, oh, it's the price. But in reality, it's just a smoke screen. So a smoke screen is essentially when somebody is telling you something that's not true. They just want to let you down soft. They're going to be like, oh, it's the price. I'll go think about it. I'll get back to you. And they never get back to you. So the reason why you have to isolate it, okay, yeah, so price aside, are you 100% in? And let's say they're like, eh. Let's even say they're like, yes, but they're a little hesitant about it. You can go even further. Okay, let's say this thing was free. Would you go running to it like a Lamborghini, right? Would you go jump on it, right? And that's how it needs to be, because if they wouldn't be so excited if this thing was free, then they wouldn't spend $2 grand on it. So you need to make sure that you're handling the real objection. Now what this does is it just gets rid of all the fluff. Is it the price? Okay, let's work on it. Let's get a payment plan. Let's do this, right? Is it your wife? Do you need to talk to your wife about it? Okay, let's do this. Let's get her on the call. Let's do this, right? And now if you can get the real objection out, and you can get them to tell you the truth, you'll actually be able to handle it. If you don't know the objection, you can't handle it, right? So essentially isolate the objection, whatever it is, and then handle it logically from there. But essentially in my business for 100K a month, I delegated sales really fast, meaning I hired a closer. When I was at around 20K, I hired a closer, and then I hired another one as well. Now, if you're at less than 10K, 20K, even 30K, I would still just close yourself. I'm not telling you guys to do that, but that's what I did for my business, so I could focus on higher leverage activities. But if you want the exact script that I was giving my closers in my agency, DM me the word script on IG. I'll give it to you for free. So that was the exact way I scaled my agency to $100,000 a month. If it was valuable to y'all, make sure to hit the subscribe button.